and welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. My name is Shelley and my channel is dedicated to talking about how to be environmentally friendly in a modern context. I welcome you back, and if you are not a subscriber, if you like what you see here, you are welcome to subscribe. That really helps my channel. But today we're going to talk about something kind of interesting. The last couple episodes, two posts ago, we talked about mermaidcore, which is a fashion aesthetic. And then last week we talked about, it was kind of a recap from me returning from my beach trip. And today I am going to go into another eco fashion trend. And you'll see in a minute there's a reason why I'm doing another one of those posts so close to the other one. It seems like, again, a lot of the media that comes out, a lot of fashion is fueled by media. And when these kind of trends come about, it does have an impact. The merchandise that comes about from these kind of trends is really important, and it impacts, the way that we're environmentally friendly. So I think it's important to talk about. But today we are going to be talking about Barbiecore, which I know is a crazy topic, but you'll see in a minute it gets interesting. So we'll jump right in. Just a quick retouch from the mermaid core. I just wanted to recap and just say that since the last couple posts, I have definitely been seeing advertisements for clamshell purses, particularly from Kate Spade. And again, it seems like there's kind of two teams to when trends come out. It seems like with social media being as it is, if you're an advocate for like green clothing lines, it never fails. The moment that you say, oh, you shouldn't have a purse that looks like a clamshell, you inevitably have someone who comes back and says, what do you mean I can't have a purse that looks like a clamshell? I'm going to go out and buy it and I'm going to wear it. And let me just preface, and it's funny, the advertisements started popping up, and maybe it's just the algorithm. Again, I Google and search for these keywords. So anytime someone posts under that keyword, it would show me whether it's pro or con, my beliefs towards it. But what I had said is that I said that, to be mermaidcore, you don't have to be kitschy with it, where you have a purse that looks like a clamshell, because the goal is to wear something 30 times. And if it's a purse and, it looks a little too cartoonish, you're not going to wear it that much. And it would become more of a, kind of a trend thing that you wear once when you want to look like a mermaid, right? But I did see some, and I did take it as a little bit of pushback. I'm not dissing anyone's clam purse, but it's funny, even the name of the advertisement said, "What the shell?" I was like, seriously? Okay. Again, I'm not dissing your clam purse. And actually, you'll see in a minute with the Barbiecore, same thing. It's like, I don't know if people are getting paid to say, hey, can you post saying how cool this purse is? It's a cute purse. I'm not dissing it, but I'm just saying, are you going to wear it 30 times? Is it going to be a daily staple where you're really going to use it and wear it out, and it's not going to, end up being a surplus of something that no one wants because it looks too niche, right? So just wanted to revisit that real quick before we jump into the Barbiecore. Now, again, the reason that we're starting off with Barbiecore is, and not to do too many, these eco fashion trend videos are popular. I'm glad that people like them. And please, if there's any aesthetic that you want us to talk about, we can gladly do that. If you feel free to leave a comment, or I do have an email address for, that's ecogirlinamodernworld@gmail.com. But let me know what you think of these. But I just think it's good to talk about these topics because, again, what we're influenced by tends to fuel what we put our purchasing dollar towards, which is what ends up in landfills or ends up, as the materials that we use every day, right? And the reason that I decided to do another of these eco trend videos, is particularly for Barbiecore, is because there is another movie coming out. The director, Greta Gerwig, who is the director of the movie Little Women, So that's what really caught my attention first with this, is that Little Women was impeccably well done, and it's a literary piece that talks about the empowerment of women. So the fact that a director who is kind of coming from that background is doing a Barbie themed movie makes me, that's what kind of triggers the thought that, okay, this might not be as campy as we think. The other thing is that Margot Robbie is known to play strong feminine characters who have known the plight of oppression, and I will come out and say it, she's played Harley Quinn. And honestly, that in the comics book sphere is someone who's very impacted, psychologically influenced by the role of what a woman plays as a, So I think it's interesting that this movie's coming out. I'm not a big Pink person, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But with movies like this coming out, you best believe it's going to impact what people are buying, especially in the fashion realm. And fashion has a big impact. If you've watched any of my other videos, clothes that are made from synthetic materials, and we're about to dive into a pool of pink in this video. Now, just a few cautionary things, just a few triggers that, of course, when we are talking about a certain kind of demographic and socio-type, and I hope I'm using the right word, we are going to be touching on a lot of different socially important topics, including, the waves of feminism, how women are treated, how men are treated, and also we will be getting into a few songs that are earworms, and the definition of an earworm is the song that you get stuck in your head and that you can't get it back out again. I'm going to be doing that to you this video, just so be warned, be cautioned. I'm going to be posting a few videos below that are YouTube videos that will also, they have disclaimers in the beginning, but just if you click on it, just be warned that, all of the video essays are very well done. I'm so grateful to be on YouTube. But just know that there might be a few topics, because that Barbie really does play into that. So let's jump right in. There is a Barbie movie coming out. Barbie was a doll, of course, a 12.5-inch doll that came out in 1949. And believe it or not, my mom had the first one. And we have the first one, the one with the black and white striped bathing suit. And actually, black and white stripes is very reminiscent of Henry Bendel's, which is a very upper class shopping experience in New York City. They closed in like 2018, but if there are certain TV shows that talk about that store all the time. But doll came out in 1949, and my mom had the first one, and it's so cool. We still have that doll, and my great grandmother used to sew doll clothes for her, and and as my great grandmother got older, she did start to have like arthritis, but she used to do these little stitches, and such perfect little stitches for these little doll clothes, right? But the way that Barbie came about is Ruth Handler and her husband. They are the founders of Mattel. And in the late 40s, there were only baby dolls. Like the way that young women and young kids learned about, becoming the adults that they are supposed to, was learning how to play with a baby doll. And especially for young girls, how to nurture, how to raise a family, right? And Ruth Handler noticed her husband worked in marketing, and mostly for toys. And Ruth Handler, her daughter is Barbie, right? Her daughter was little and was playing with a paper baby doll. But her daughter Barbara was playing with this baby doll, but giving her adult characteristics. Like she was pretending like the baby doll was an adult, like an adult woman, right? And when you think about it, when you're raising a child, you learn, yes, you can learn how to, care for babies, which we still have today, Cabbage Patch Kids, everything else, baby dolls. You learn how to care for them that way, but one other thing that you do is what you aspire to be, what you emulate, you kind of, your play toys show you what you want to become, right? So she noticed that her young daughter was trying to emulate the way adults act and what an adult woman would look like and act like, right? And it gave her the bright idea of saying, well, there's no toys on the market that are available to kids for that, right? So, her husband and her being in marketing, more her husband than herself, because it was the 40s. I mean, it's unfortunately the stereotypical time where wives stayed home and cared for the family, right? But it was Ruth Handler's idea. She went with her husband to Germany to kind of a toy fair, and there was actually a 12.5-inch doll called Lilli. And there's actually, I'll post a video down below by Midnight's Edge that talks about the history of Barbie. And another good video, if you want to watch it, it is on Netflix, and you can buy the DVD either from Amazon. It's from 2017, so it might be a used copy. But there's a series called The Toys That Made Us. And I think season 2, episode 7 is the Barbie episode, and we're going to talk about that again in a minute, but that was really informative about the background of Barbie. But Barbie started with a doll called Lilli, and Lilli was really kind of a comic book-esque kind of doll. She was the exact shape and model of the original 1949 Barbie, with the lashes. And one thing you'll notice is that the original Barbie does not look directly at you. She looks to the side. Like, she does not make eye contact, which is a sign of submission. Honestly, it's a body language sign of submission, but we'll evolve past that in a minute. But Lilli was actually a comic book character who worked in an office like a secretary. She made her own money. She was kind of a tough character, but she flirted with older men. And she was really a little bit, had all the curves and the bigger bust and, kind of a little bit of a femme fatale, right? She knew how to handle men, and it was this kind of comic book. There was a comic book based after it, and then she was the doll. And what Ruth Handler saw was the potential. She already had they already had the doll in production. So what she did is she bought the rights for Lilli, and she just basically took it to America and made it Barbie, right? And there was a blonde Barbie and a brunette Barbie, right? So from 49 moving on, it became a booming demographic. And if you watch the series, The Toys That Made Us, it really talked about that. It is, again, a touch hypocritical, because what it was is you had little girls kind of playing more with baby dolls. And actually in the trailer for the Barbie movie, you see that, with her wearing the striped bikini with all these little kids looking primitive, holding baby dolls, right? And and they play the theme to 2001, The Space Odyssey behind it, because it really is like that. It was like the dawning of the era of giving these young adolescent children this doll that looks like an adult, fully mature woman, as a fashion toy. And the other thing that was really positive about that is that the clothes, in 49 Barbie was a fashion model, right? So it gave children a way to change out her clothes, but that was cutting edge at the time. That was one of the groundbreaking toys of the time, and the other thing is that, and this is going to sound really out of line, but in that documentary, they even said it, if you have a 12-year-old girl who's kind of homely, not really interested in boys, that's how they kind of sold this concept. Like, okay, show her what she could be. And I know that sounds awful, but, a lot of, finding the man of your dreams, marrying your dream husband. I mean, that, happily ever after, it was in the 50s and 60s. It was very crucial, especially coming out of a time, it was the post-war years, but it was also, single, income families, a lot of women did stay home and take care of it. So your ability to, attract a husband or to get into a relationship was really on what it meant to be a woman. It was part of, what makes you attractive. What do you want to do? And then, of course, as Barbie evolved through the 60s and 70s, and I'll actually post a video by the taco down below, it did evolve it evolved in a good way. Barbie's eyes stopped facing away and started looking directly, and then her looks got more natural. She got more multicultural. She also started inspiring women to be, peaceful, and also, to what jobs you wanted to have, right? What a woman can do anything. Now, one other thing before we get into, so stopping at the 60s before we get into modern Barbie and the movie, one other thing that really was controversial was the color pink. Pink, God, and the crazy thing is that, in the late 18th and 19th centuries, in the 1800s, 1900s, particularly before 1890, all the gender neutral color was white. So if babies, male or female, were born, they wore a christening dress. And actually you could see this with the royal family now, boy or girl, you wear something that looks like a dress, and it's white, and because that was easy to keep clean, and it was gender neutral, and white stands for purity and innocence, right? And then what it used to be is that both men and women, and I actually have a picture of my grandfather when he was a baby with his brothers and my great-grandmother from 1920. And he was wearing a christening gown, and he's a male. He was standing there in a white dress. But that's what little ones wore, And then as males got older, and there's videos, there's several great videos here on YouTube that talk about the origins of pink. It's so fascinating, right? But the origin of pink was that you wore white, and then, believe it or not, in 1890, Harper's Bazaar. And this was, again, the post-Victorian era. At the turn of the 1900s, you saw the Gibson girl and the high collars. It was very formal, like even, the formality and, how to be respectable was reflected in your dress. And the 1890s, there was actually articles that said blue is for girls and pink is for boys. And that all children, regardless of gender, wear white until they're about 1 to 3 years of age. And then it became more popular the younger, as soon as a male child was able to walk or comfortably wear, shorts or trousers, shorts, short pants, that they would do that as soon as they were able to. But even in the earliest times, and then by the turn of the century, and there's a great video by Vox that I'll put below that talked about, there became a big discrepancy, like a big fight over who wore blue and who wore pink, right? And it was for marketing reasons. If you've ever seen Miracle on 34th Street, there were Macy's was fighting with the competitor, and what happened was, there were surveys that were taken, okay, what gender buys what color, right? And believe it or not, in the North, they believed that blue was for girls and pink was for boys. And then more in the South, they said, pink is for girls and blue is for boys. And that kind of makes sense because, honestly, pink is technically a masculine color. Red, in astrology, it represents Aries energy, the masculine energy of red. And then when you mix red with white, which is purity and innocence of a child, it becomes pink, right? And actually, in the videos that I'm posting below, it talks about English gentry, especially in France, really wore a lot of pink. Men wore pink. It was a sign of strength and purity because it was the mix of red and pink. And then the crazy thing is that, you know, pink was so strong, and it was very popular in France too, which kind of makes sense as to why it kind of became, well, that's interesting because, you know, in Louisiana, which was a French, you know, province for a long time, you would think that that influence would, you know, say, okay, pink is for men, but the other thing is that blue being for women is not unheard of because also in astrology, blue is related to the moon, and the moon is ruled by the sign of Cancer, which is a feminine energy. You know, the moon is the mother of the earth, right? And the sun is the masculine strength, right? So, and that's also for the sign of Leo, you know, and that's all red and gold. So, you know, but the battle raged on, and you'll see the two videos, especially the Taco and Vox and Modern Girls, who was in my Mermaid Core video. She did a great video that talked about it too. There was a lot of influence, and there was kind of a battle for the, you know, up until 1950, it was kind of 50-50. And of course, marketing just went with what appealed to what gender, right? They didn't care if B was for blue or pink was for girls or whatever. They just wanted to know who would buy what. But you'll see, you know, in the early parts of the century of the, you know, 1900s, men wore pink. More men wore pink. And again, you know, it later with that, the rise of Valentine's Day and other greeting card holidays, you know, pink being, you know, red being this color of love, and then, you know, pink being kind of a Venusian color. It did kind of take off as an appealing color for, you know, for femininity, but blue was still, you know, the battle raged for a long time. It still rages today as to whether or not pink should be a gender neutral color. Now, where it really kind of took a turn that you can kind of see, and you'll see in the videos below, it's very informative if you want to watch them, is that in 1953, Eisenhower took office as a U.S. president, and his wife, Mamie Eisenhower, loved the color pink. She went to the inauguration ball wearing a pink gown with sequins, and she decorated the White House in a lot of pink. And that's where it kind of got this feminine connotation. And actually in the Vox video, there's even movies after that time that, you know, started getting, and it's funny, in Vogue magazine at the time, the editor-in-chief was Diana Vreeland, and she didn't think pink was a girly color at all. She thought blue was. So, you know, and again, that's kind of like a, you know, a New England type of thing, like, you know, New York and above, women wear blue because it's a softer and less aggressive. It's not a mixture of red, right? And the other thing that comes into play is that it does carry on into modern context. Oh, one last thing with the Mamie Eisenhower, she decorated the White House. They used to call it the Pink House. Like she, you know, decorated in a lot of pink. And I'm actually house hunting right now. It's funny, if you look behind me, you would think that I'm a maximalist with my decorations, but I'm really not a maximalist. I just live in a very small kind of studio space, and that might change soon. I'm going to get a bigger space. So then possibly a few videos from now, you'll see blank walls. So, because I'll have room to put all of my eco art, and, you know, we'll get into that into the home decor video. But the way that plays into pink is that Mamie Eisenhower was honestly the reason why a lot of women decorated their kitchens and their bathrooms with pink tile. And actually my realtor, who's the sweetest lady in the world, even said, yeah, my bathroom has pink tile. And she's like, God, I just want to change it. And I'm like, well, you can thank Mamie Eisenhower for that. Thanks, Mamie. But yeah, the history of it is pretty fascinating. I remember one time my mom did buy bed sheets that were all like pink rose, and my dad was just like shaking his head like, why did you, you know, like there was roses on one pillowcase and, you know, another, and it was just all over the place. It's not a bad color. I personally wear a lot of blue. I wear a lot of lunar blue, and I don't know. It's a personal preference, but the history of pink is very important. one other history of pink that you'll see in the videos below that's important is this last, and where it plays into current fashion trends, is you've seen in the last color season, just like with Mermaidcore, you know how I told you Mermaidcore was kind of percolating, it was on the back burner. A lot of fashion houses were, Valentino came out with really magenta, vibrant pink. Valentino, you call it Valentino Pink, right? I saw it all over the place. And another video that I saw was, I think it was the Modern Girls video that's posted below, said that while they were filming the Barbie movie, a lot of the, you know, they were filming in public, so people got pictures and it started to leak on the internet. The moment that they knew a Barbie movie was in production, the sale of pink items, like pink clothing, went up by 44%. Like the searches on the internet started to go up by nearly 50%. So that tells you, again, media fuels where you put your buying dollar. The other thing is that I did also see rumors that when they were building the set of Barbie, they ran out of pink paint. Like, I really heard that. They used so much pink paint on the sets and they're beautiful sets. It's just like, oh my God, it's Mamie returns. It's the return of Mamie Einsenhower. But to circle back to Valentino Pink, sorry to jump around, but Valentino Pink is a bright magenta pink. It's like what I got on now, and this is my eco outfit of the day. We'll get to it. But Valentino Pink is a very vibrant pink, and it's technically not Valentino Pink. It's Schiaparelli Pink. Elsa Schiaparelli is an Italian designer who was the parallel of Coco Chanel. They were like colleagues. They were around at the same time. But she's an Italian designer, and what happened was she designed a lot of dresses. I think she designed the dress for what is it, Marilyn Monroe, when she sings "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend." I think that's "Gentlemen prefer blondes," and that really ties into Barbie because that character, Marilyn Monroe's character, is really like Lilli, like the doll that inspired Barbie. The German doll, the German character is really like, you know, but the color pink actually started with Schiaparelli. She thought of the darker, more vibrant, kind of the hot pink. And her inspiration for it is that she attended a party with a royal dignitary, like a member of the royal family from Europe. And she had on this gorgeous necklace that had rubies. And again, Aryan energy. Ruby red that was this color pink, because you know how all rubies are not always red. They can be this kind of like bright pink red. And she was inspired. She was so infatuated with that color, particularly with the rubies. And she started making, you know, she started dyeing garments and dyeing cloth to match that kind of red. And when you think about it as a form of feminine power, you know, men, Aryan, strong-willed men wear red. And what do you do when you mix innocent and purity of white and the femininity? You know, it's almost like taking powder pink up a notch, you know. And a few of these other videos talk about that. You know, when you think about it, you know, the real power kind of red, the hot pink Barbie red. In modern times, you see it in shows like Mean Girls, like the Plastics. Regina George wears hot pink. They even say it, on Wednesdays we wear pink. And, you know, in the poem, Wednesdays is the day of woe. So the color hot pink starts to get kind of a split connotation. It almost is like a feminine, aggressive color. And then it's kind of pushing men out from wearing pink, right? You know, even though it's technically a gender neutral color. But it's a fascinating history, and it's good to know when you get into Barbiecore, because the reason, so, you know, and actually you see it in 1949, Barbie didn't wear, you know, the original doll did not wear pink. The pink really didn't start until like the 80s. And the 80s, pink was a real power color too. I think half the reason for that is like through the 60s and 70s, you know, first off, Barbie got more contemporaries. It wasn't just her as the doll. She got Ken. And to be honest, I think Ken is the name of Ruth Handler's son, which is a little weird seeing as, Barbie, is supposed to be boyfriend, girlfriend, right? But if you watch The Toys That Made Us, check out the G.I. Joe video too. The original G.I. Joes were not like little action figures the way they were in the 80s. They were taller. And I think what happened was, I think Mattel just did it out of necessity because little girls wanted a boyfriend for their Barbie doll, and they started using G.I. Joes, which were not the same height, But got Ken as a boyfriend, got Midge as a best friend, got Skipper as a little sister. I'm not sure when PJ came along, but we'll see PJ in a minute. Now, I was not a huge Barbie person. Now, of course, I was a child of the 80s, so we'll get into this in a minute. It was huge in the 80s. But the biggest thing is that through the 60s and 70s, Barbie evolved from being this fashion model to having more empowering jobs. And when you think about it, the 60s and 70s were a lot of civil rights movement eras, including equal treatment for women. There were several waves of feminism. And, the doll of Barbie really reflects that. And the movie that's coming out is going to be kind of like, there's going to be subtext of that in this. Now, the one thing is that there are different waves of feminism. The feminism that was prevalent when women, the suffrage movement, when we were fighting for rights to vote, versus the 40s when, Rosie the Riveter, when women went to work after the war effort, and then when the men came home were told to go back to the home. And then you got the 50s when Barbie came out, the 60s, the 70s. The 70s was a second wave of feminine movement. Now, one thing that's important to me about seeing this movie, and especially when you're dressing Barbie-core, and again, I'm getting to a point, I know this is a long video, but the reason that when these kind of movements come out, you want to understand what's behind the movie. It isn't just because the very slogan of Barbie, the very slogan of Barbie is that it's a plastic world, right? And if you watch this channel, we don't want microplastics. We don't want to create anything that doesn't biodegrade. We want natural fabrics. The best way that you can dress in a certain aesthetic is to understand the core, Barbie core. What's the core of the aesthetic? The core of Barbie is what is being feminine? What's the definition of being feminine? And there's another video by Mina Lee that I'll post below. And again, these are just video essays. I'm so grateful for YouTube for giving us, because they're very intelligent. They talk about what hyperfeminism means, which is the representation of Barbie, because that's what you're dressing about. It isn't just neon pink to say, I'm a Barbie girl. And we'll get into that stupid song in a minute. But it's about what does that movement actually mean. But, and what I loved is that, in the 60s and 70s, you actually got Surgeon Barbie and Stewardess Barbie. And, and then in the 80s, you got other Barbies, including and of course, a lot of women went to work in the 80s. It became 2-income households. So you did get things like Astronaut Barbie and Day to Night Barbie. Now, where this plays into Barbie-core, and I know we're way into it now, it's like, Shelley, you have an environmental channel, why are you going off in the left field? Is because, and this is what scared me, just like mermaid core, the moment I started seeing all sequins and beading and looking like you popped out of a clamshell, I saw, and this was just in my Facebook feed. This was not, I'm not even on TikTok, but it's a TikTok video because they're always TikTok videos. I'm sorry, TikTok's starting to turn me off because it's just all marketing and it's like 7 seconds long. It's the new Vine of how to subliminally plant, you need this, and if they do it, if it's on repetition enough and the algorithm wants to feed, Big Brother is sparking ideas. I'm sorry. I really feel like that's what this all is. And again, media is what fuels what you buy, and what you buy is what ends up in landfills. So that's why this is important. But I was scrolling through Facebook, and guess what I saw? TikTok video. I bought a Barbie float. It's a floatie. And it's got a top to it. It's got cup holders. And what really killed me is that it's like less than 30 seconds long, and she's like, oh, I love it. I love the way you can take the fringe off the top. It's got fringe on the top. This thing is a big floating plastic. The 5 seconds after Barbie-Core is no longer popular, that thing is going to be in a landfill, guys. And it's got fringe. I'm sorry. It's the floatie with the fringe on top. I've got that song stuck in my head. Chicks and ducks and geese better scurry. I'm sorry. I think it's from Oklahoma. You know what it makes me think of? That movie. Oh, God. This is a second earworm. I didn't even think about this. That movie, When Harry Met Sally. You know, he's singing karaoke. Harry's singing karaoke with Sally, and then his ex-wife comes in with her new, like, boyfriend or husband, and he's singing. Oh, my God. Harry Burns was a little chauvinistic in that movie, and I that was probably the one time I felt bad for him. But later on, he's yelling to us. He's like, and 6 years later, I'm singing Surrey with a fringe on top in front of Ira. You know, it was, sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but this thing is crazy. And this is just one of the Barbie things, right? And just to circle back, I mean, the 80s was a time of excess, and there were all these Barbie dolls, right? You had, and I'm going to give you a minute to judge me here because I am a hypocrite. I really liked the Dream Date Barbie, which had the polyester dress with the frilly thing, because what you could do is the ruffle could become like 12 different outfits. Maybe I was maybe I was reusing clothes even back then, but I really wanted that doll. I didn't get that doll, but I really wanted it. And oh God, that goes to the pink and blue debate too, because the blonde Dream Date Barbie had the pink ruffle, if I remember correctly, and the PJ, the friend doll, had the blue ruffle. And believe it or not, that PJ doll is a rare one too. The blue versus pink rages on. Many years later, the PJ goes for like $188 on eBay, and there's like 11 watchers. Yeah, but I liked the little skirt one. There was another one that had little hearts. It was like velvet hearts on her dress, and she was also an 80s doll. I think the 80s was probably the prime time for Barbies, at least in my humble opinion. But there was one other one, and this really plays into the one other one, and this is why it's important, because, and I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping around here. I saw that floatie and I freaked out, because they make Barbie everything, and it's all plastic, and it's all trendy. And you know, if you watch this video, what we want to avoid is trends, because you're just going to buy it to look like Barbie for 5 minutes, and then you're going to throw it away. You know what happens when your floatie pops? You know, you don't want to do that. Don't buy the floatie. And it's going to be on your TikTok on repeat, and you're going to think, I need it. You don't need it. But I'm a hypocrite but what you want to do is, you know, if you see something that the Barbie that, okay, think about, let's do this. And again, the movie's coming out, you know, the movie's going to have a lot of subtext to it. I'm actually kind of glad that Ryan Gosling plays Ken. I think he's kind of strong. You know, in some of the videos that you watch below, it talks about how hyperfeminism sometimes is a way of trying to embrace a role. It's trying to embrace your femininity. And sometimes that, you know, Barbie-core sometimes gets related to bimbo-core. You know, they think that you're brainless, you're sexually attractive, but you have no intellect. And that's not true. You can embrace your femininity, you can embrace all of the positive things of Barbie-core, but you just got to think of what Barbie meant to you in the positive aspect. What did she aspire you to be? Again, you're a little kid playing with your Barbie doll of what she could be, what you could be imitating, you know, what you can emulate to be, because Barbie could do it. Right? And that's what you have to think of it. But Ryan Gosling, you know, it's funny, one of the videos equated, they talked about that sometimes having that forced, you know, lack of intellect is really a trauma response. It's like, and especially when you've come out of, you know, times like a pandemic, or you've come through times of trial where you feel like it's unfair, like women and men are not treated equal. Sometimes your response is to kind of force yourself into accepting that hyper feminine role. And but I feel like it's the same with the Ken character too. You know, Ken is kind of following Barbie around. He's just kind of like this castrated male, and that's not the purpose of Ken either. So I just feel like when you watch this movie, it's going to have a lot of depth and subtext to it. And a lot of the videos I'm posting below talk about kind of what's behind it. But I'll share this, that one of the Barbies that I always liked growing up, that I would play with, was the day-to-night Barbie. She had a day job, and then at night she would go out. And again, it's not, I kind of liked it not so much because I had a date with Ken that night. Not to diss Ken, he's a cute guy, right? But I worked a full-time job and went to school at night and got my degrees. So I would have 12-hour days. And I felt like I could do that. I could work a full-time job and I could go to, night. And one other thing I really liked is that, and this is going to sound, I'll pause after this so you can judge me, but she also had a day-to-night play set. Like she could pull out her bed, and then when she folded her bed back up, it became her desk. It was almost like, back in the 80s, that would have been the equivalent of like multifunctional IKEA furniture. And I am all about that. I'm all about like, I kind of do that now. Like I'm able to move my chair over here, and then it serves, this area serves this function, and then I go back over here. And it was practical, and she was industrious, and she was a wage earner. She didn't need anyone to take care of her, and I loved that Barbie. I thought the astronaut Barbie was really cool too. But that's what I thought of when I think of Barbie-core. That's what she inspired me to do, and that was really my age, and so when you look at this, and the other thing is with the Barbie video, you see there's this scene that talks about how Barbie's feet are, arched. And it's funny, my sister and I even had a conversation. I talked in the last video about how I wear those kind of Birkenstock sandals, and my sister was telling me, she's like, you really don't want to wear too many flat shoes. It's bad for your feet. It's not ergonomically correct. So maybe it's a mixture of the two. You don't want to be as arched as Barbie feet, but you don't want to be flat foot either. Maybe the happy medium is in the middle. But I just think that if you go to watch this movie, just like all of our other rules, you don't want to go out and buy a bunch of plastic stuff. And believe me, I'm seeing Barbie-core everywhere now. First off, I'm seeing the dolls. I saw the Margot Robbie Barbie movie doll. Right next to it, I did see a Barbie doll that said Ocean Lover Barbie or something, and the doll itself was supposed to be made from recycled marine plastic, and we talked about that in the beach recap, in the Mermaid Core. There, you can take fishing nets from the ocean and recycle them, and it sounds like they're taking ocean plastic and recycling it into the doll itself, which is fabulous, and the packaging was cardboard. But the only other thing was the beach volleyball net that came with her. I doubt is not recycled plastic, but it's in a paper box, so I guess, okay, Mattel, A for effort. The only other thing is that right above it was this completely non-recycled plastic with glitter sports car that was Barbie Extra. Yeah, I'm going to pause a moment because I don't think Barbie needs to be extra. She's extra as it is. Sorry. That kind of shot my environmentalist, but I do like the recycled Barbie. She's a beautiful doll. Good for you. But that's on the doll front, right? So they're trying. Yeah, good job. The other thing is I saw clothes. It's a lot of clothes. I walked through Nordstrom department store. I saw pink stripes, a polyester blend. And I saw pink tank tops, and they're getting into the neon. It's getting into the neon. So and again, that statistic, the searches of Barbie went up 44% for Barbie pink clothes. One other place I did see it is, I shop Anthropologie. I walked in and I saw it was like a sheer hot pink. Schiaparelli, Valentino, however you want to label it. And it was all polyester. And I was just like, oh my God, that's the Loving Hearts Barbie top right there. So the reason that I did this whole video, and that's the reason I've been talking for 40 minutes, is that You are going to see these clothes. They are rolling off the presses now. In 2 weeks, everyone's going to be talking about this movie. If you hate Barbie, if you love Barbie, if you go to see this movie or see any of the spoilers, there's going to be people out there buying these polyester clothes. And as we've talked about, when it comes to fashion, polyester is polyurethane. Polyurethane is gas. It's not good for your skin. It doesn't breathe, even if it's a net fabric and you look like, dream date, whatever. It's not good. If you buy the Floatie and only use it once and then never use it again, now you got this big inflatable, that's going to be, that you're a grown woman floating around, with a Floatie. Do you want to do that? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Now, the thing that you can do is just like our eco rules are: look for natural fibers, buy it pre-owned, buy it with the expectation of wearing it 30 times. The other thing is that if you really want to honor Barbie, if you want to be true to Barbie, think about the Barbie that meant something to you and why. And the day-to-night Barbie meant something to me, and I'm going to give you a minute to judge me, but I did actually go on eBay, and they didn't have the day-to-night playset, but they had a piece of it that looked like the bookcase. And it was just like a replacement piece that was under $10, and I bought it because I thought it was cool. And it's just a broken toy piece from the 80s. It's still in existence, but what I did is I have 80 toys. One way that you can kind of be eco-friendly is always buy toys that are already in existence. Don't buy the brand new stuff. And during the pandemic, and I know this sounds dorky, but I did buy a ViewMaster because there are actually ViewMaster reels from around the world, like Spain and Italy, and and I like looking at pictures. I'm kind of a photographer at heart, and I just like seeing how the world looked 50 years ago, right? It gives me inspiration. It also shows me what nature looks like. So I do have ViewMasters from different places and different gardens, but I did get the 1950 Barbie's Goes Around the World trip. I bought that on ViewMaster, and that was while in the middle of a pandemic when you can't go anywhere. Barbie inspired me with that. And I could also imagine, how exciting my mom would be when she was a kid seeing things like that. So that's one ways you can be environmentally friendly. I know that sounds really dorky, buying broken 80s toys and ViewMasters, but that's how I kind of honor the what inspires me about Barbie, right? And it was interesting. It was really neat. And the way that they positioned it, and to see how the dolls looked back then, that was inspiration enough for me. One other thing I did do is that I did buy a Schiaparelli pink. I could call it Valentino pink. But I bought a vest that was 100% cotton off eBay because I like dressing like the 80s and I like color blocking. So I wore that. And again, you buy it with the expectation of wearing it more than once. I just don't want one day of looking like Barbie. And then the last thing is what I have on now, which is a Barbie pink tank top. And it's actually an OP. It's Ocean Pacific. And it's 100% cotton. It is vintage from the 80s. And that I also got online secondhand. And I've worn it at least 7 times. And it's really comfortable to wear in the summer. And it is Barbie pink, but it is also what I like to wear. So again, just like we talked in Mermaidcore, cross over these trends. If you're an 80s fan, if you're a color blocking fan, try to, natural fibers brought pre-owned with the intention of wearing it as much as you can. And if you can't wear it and you don't want to wear it anymore, the potential of you reselling it and it actually being resold and going on to have another life. Will the Floatie with the fringe on top give you that? Probably not. Now, the second earworm that I wanted to give before we leave is that, of course, this is an environmental channel, and when you talk about Barbie, there's actually a song that came out in '97, and this came out when I was young. I was, in my late teens, early 20s. And actually, believe it or not, my boyfriend loved that song. My boyfriend at the time played that song out, and he had good taste in music. He listened to a lot of diverse things, but he listened to Aqua, the song Barbie Girl by Aqua, and that is the most annoying ass song in the world. Sorry guys, but it's like the actual theme, the actual coin phrase is life in plastic, it's fantastic. And that phrase alone is why I have an eco channel. We have microplastics everywhere, guys. We have microplastics in our water, in our bloodstreams. Please don't get the floaty with the fringe on top. They make Barbie everything now, like Barbie everything, and it's gonna take off when this movie takes off, right? And they remixed that song, and I'm almost not gonna see the movie because that song triggers the hell out of me. That boyfriend and I broke up, and why I didn't break up with him over him playing that song on repeat. It's traumatizing. Hey Barbie, hey Ken. Oh God, you're gonna, if you see me in a movie theater twitching from the trauma response, say hi, because but Barbie has a long history, Pink has a long history. The strength between, you know, being masculine and being feminine, you know. And actually, we're going to talk about it when I get to the toys video. I actually had a few Gem and the hologram dolls. I'm going to do a toys video because those were the competitor of Barbie in the 80s. And believe it or not, Ruth Handler did a real power play with them too. She found out that a rock star doll was coming out to compete, and she, in 6 weeks, if you watch the Toys That Made Us video, in 6 weeks she came out with Barbie and the Rockers, and that was a power play. That was a strategic move to kind of cut Gem off at the knees. So pink and power is a powerful color. It's, you know, when Ruth Handler you don't mess with Ruth Handler, right? And you know, and you know, rest in peace Ruth Handler, because she created a lexicon of what it means to be feminine and what it means to be, you know, that epitome of femininity, whatever your gender is, as an adult. So, and again, to do that environmentally friendly is to understand what that means to you. It isn't just to go out there and buy every plastic pink thing that comes out from this movie coming out. Just like we think about mermaid core, just like we think about the way that we buy our clothes, think about how long it's going to be around, you know, after this trend has come and gone. And if you really want to honor Barbie, you know, how can you do that? You know, with a ViewMaster, I honestly put that little piece of the day to night playset. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. It's so neat, and it's going to be around. It's more than 30 years old. And when I look at it, I think of all of what that doll meant to me growing up. You know, it's not to be cheesy, you know, and I just, you know, it's like a piece of history, really, you know. But as we come into it, you know, just think about what Barbie means to you. And if you do see the movie, you know, maybe that will prepare you for it, you know, to think about, you know, what that intrinsically means to you. But this was a longer video. I hope you enjoyed. Please tell me what you think. We are going to get back to more traditional topics very soon. But I hope you have a good holiday, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.